What's up, everybody? Welcome to Touchdown Texas, episode 19. I'm your host, Shivam Patel, and I have my co-host here, Nick Rodriguez. What a game yesterday. Texas Longhorns survived the Arizona State Sun Devils in the quarterfinals right here in Atlanta, 39-31 in two overtimes. And we're still processing a lot of what happened, but what a crazy game, Nick.
I mean, insane. So many back and forth plays from both sides. You were there. I was there with my family, and unbelievable. It looked like we had lost it at some point. Looks like we were cruising at some points. Unbelievable atmosphere in Atlanta. So I'm just so glad that we were able to escape with the win and get to see another day.
Yep, for sure. And before we get started talking about the game, be sure to follow us at touchdown_Texas on our social media channels and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video. It was definitely a wild game. There was a lot of Longhorns fans there, but ASU fans showed up as well. So it was like an NCAA tournament game, as Sark said. There was a lot of back and forth, especially in the second half. But I want to start with overtime. So just to give everybody some context into what happened, Texas had a 16-point lead with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, 24-8, before Arizona State came storming back, tying the game. And after two Burt Auburn missed field goals, how are you feeling in overtime, Nick? Let's start with that because that's kind of where the most action happened in the game.
It's a great place to start. I'm glad we're starting here. Man, it's just a roller coaster of emotions. It was so right at the beginning of overtime, it was definitely stressed, definitely very nervous because Burt Auburn had just missed the game-winning a chance to win the game in overtime or right before overtime. It was a great drive from Quinn. Bond, Wingo had some great places to get him right down. How far was that kick? Like 15 yards?
I think the second kick was 38 yards. The first kick was 48. The second kick was 38.
The one at the very end of the game was 38. Oh, okay, that's farther than I thought it was, but still, he was still right there. So, at that point, you're like, doesn't matter what happened in the fourth quarter. We blew the lead. Doesn't matter as long as he hits this kick. It doesn't matter. We'll win 27-24. But he missed. Now that was terrible. The only good thing is that it felt like we were able to move the ball. And I felt confident in our defense being able to stop them in short yards because we knew they couldn't throw the ball. But their trickeration, Cam Scatterbo, obviously he was an issue, even though he was hurling on the sidelines. So I just think it was I don't know. It was a range of emotions, I guess. And I still felt confident in our defense enough, but our offense was up and down all day, as you know.
Definitely. And yep, just in the overtime. So there was a lot of anxiety amongst Texas fans because Arizona State had the momentum. And usually when you go into overtime, the team that has the momentum to finish the fourth quarter is usually the team that's able to carry it into overtime. Well, we were even more stressed out because Texas wins the toss in overtime, but prefers to play defense. What does Arizona State do? Marches right down the field, which I feel by me 25 yards, scores a touchdown, 31-24. Now it's Texas's turn, and after a couple of false starts by Calvin Banks, who's going to be a top 10 overall pick. He did not have that great of a game, but it was 4th and 13. And it was a much-needed play. The season was on the line. And what does Quinn – this is what I'm going to give a lot of props to Quinn Ewers. What does Quinn Ewers do? He knows that Arizona State is doing a zero blitz, which means there's no safety. Everybody's just blitzing towards the quarterback.
Yeah.
He changes the protection to a max protection, so the offensive line starts sliding left while the running back picks up the blitzing safety. And that was Wisner, by the way. That was a huge block. Gives Quinn Ewers enough time. And what does Golden do? There's a post route wide open for a touchdown. It was clutch. It was awesome, and it was a much-needed play. And then Texas gets the ball to start the second overtime. And the first play of overtime, Quinn Ewers hits Gunnar Helm down the seam for a huge touchdown pass. Then the 2-point conversion, because now it's required in the second overtime to go for two.
Yeah.
It was like the Arkansas game. Quinn Ewers roll out to the right, finds Matthew Golden in the back of the end zone. So 3 touchdown passes by Ewers, and he was the reason why we won in overtime.
No, I mean, first of all, let's just go back to that 4th and 13 play. I mean, that was the play. That was the play that, if he doesn't complete that, if it gets batted down, intercepted, he doesn't check. There's so many little things that happens. The wide receiver has to be on the same page as Quinn. That doesn't happen. I mean, we're not having this conversation, right? We're not talking about Quinn coming up clutch. We're talking about how much of a great Longhorn he was, and hats off to Arizona State, and previewing next season as a Longhorn in a devastating loss. Unbelievable performance on Quinn. I think all the Quinn hate should have been gone. But I mean, in that moment, and I think you sent me a tweet. I forgot who the tweet was by, but I mean, everybody is nervous, right? Everyone is shaking. I was actually at that end zone that they scored that touchdown. I mean, Matthew Golden, awesome catch, by the way. And he was right there, and we're all nervous. We're like, oh my God, this could be the last play of Quinn's career. Mm-hmm. At least as a Longhorn, right? And you're like, oh man, we shouldn't end this way. He deserves the best. And he checks out the protection, which you don't really get when you're watching it live. But the throw was unbelievable. And he had, I want to say, at least 5 or 6 NFL throws yesterday. I mean, most of them to Matthew Golden. I mean, just on the money, gross looking throws. No, he didn't cost us the game, or not cost us the game. No, this was not on him at all. I don't want to hear any of that today. I mean, unreal. And then once, like you said, second overtime, we get the ball first. That's just the rule. And first play, Gunnar Helm. I mean, it kind of looked like the very first drive of the game where it was 2 plays. And I was like, we're going to smoke them. Like, they're not going to even be close, right? And, of course, our offense stalled. Cam Scatabo happened. The trickery of their offense happened, and they just had no fear whatsoever. But what I like about this Texas team is when we had the game lost, or we had our lead lost, or things were not going our way, play call, whatever, and we'll get into the targeting call and not call. This Texas team did not back down, right? And most of that is to Sark, and that's to Quinn Ewers, and he had I can't stop watching that throw. I can't even stop thinking about it. As far as Texas history, especially if we win in the national championship, that might be the second greatest Texas play ever. Especially if we win the national championship, 1 is VY.
Yeah.
That's got to be 2, right? I mean, especially if we win. But, I mean, unreal performance from Quinn.
I even think if we don't win the national championship, that at least is going to be a top 5 play in Texas football history.
Especially if we beat Ohio State.
For sure.
If we beat Ohio State, it's top 3 confirmed. I'd have to go through and think about that actually. But yeah, I mean, insane.
It was awesome. And,
oh my God.
And everybody that are true Longhorns fans was happy for Quinn because he's had, a lot of people in his ear, a lot of people criticizing him. And that was his signature play because he's had signature games, Alabama, Michigan, etc.
Yeah.
But he hasn't had that play like, oh my God, Quinn Ewers was the reason that play happened.
Oh my God.
We were going to lose. And if we lost the game, it would have been a disappointing game because we would have needed to win against Arizona State. So Quinn, allowed Texas to clinch victory from the jaws of defeat. And I liked it, Nick, when you were saying that was not his only great throw of the day. He had multiple great throws. That first play to Matthew Golden, 54 yards. That 23-yard pass to DeAndre Moore, the second play for a nice touchdown. Before his rushing touchdown in the 4th quarter that got Texas up 24-8, he also hit Matthew Golden down the sideline on 3rd and 10. And that was an absolute dart. It was awesome. Even that play to Gunnar Helm when they were setting up the field goal. That was a tough throw and a tough catch as well.
Yes.
Even in the first half, in the second quarter, that 4th and 2 when they called Arizona State for offsides when we were in field goal range, that pass to Matthew Golden along the sideline. So Matthew Golden is Quinn Ewers' go-to target. They've established a relationship, a trust amongst each other, and they're just on the same page. And Quinn was the reason why Texas won that game. Without him, any other quarterback, we would not have been able to get out of get out of the play call and set the protection correctly. He does more than just throwing the football. And he was awesome. Yesterday he stayed composed. He kept the team, focused, because our running game was non-existent last night. So it was up to the quarterback to be able to make plays, and Quinn Ewers did that.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it time and time again. I think the biggest issue actually was the play calling, because some of the play calling that allowed them to get back in the game really was a head scratcher at some points. Like, for example, we have this huge goal line stand. They'll never learn. You can't run on the goal line. Eventually they were able to, but not earlier in the game. And they held it to 17-3 because they were aggressive. They like to go for it. And we get the ball first play. We're in shotgun. We run it to, it looked like it was an RPO, I believe, or maybe not, but it was to Wisner, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, either the guy was not blocked at all, but the guy puts his helmet right on the ball, pops out, Quinn catches it. Thank God, because Arizona State recovers, that's a touchdown. Mm-hmm. He falls down on it because what is he going to do? There's nothing he can do. And, that's a safety, and then they get the ball back. Now, the reason why I don't like that play is, and there's other plays in this game, I'll give another example in a second, where I think it's the issue of why this game became so close was more on the play calling and on Sark to me than on Quinn. And I love
agree,
Sark.
By the way. Yeah.
I love Sark. It was just, some of this was just too cute. This shotgun play, you need to be right behind the center, and maybe you can put this a little on Quinn too. Maybe he should know to get out of that. And you should QB sneak it, or just run it up the gut with Wisner just to try to get a couple yards. You're not even trying to score necessarily on that drive. You're just trying to get out of dangerous territory and get the ball back. But you give them momentum, and you did that. The other play is when we're up, I think 24-8 with 5 minutes to go, or maybe it's 17-8. It's something in that range. I think 24-8, and it's 5 minutes to go. And instead of bleeding the clock, first down, we run and we get like 5 or 6 yards. And then the second play, he throws the interception.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think, is that the Isaiah Bond one where
yes.
Mm-hmm. So I'll let you talk about that, but risky throw, right? Obviously, we think that was targeting, where Isaiah Bond gets clobbered in the head, right? And his head, snaps back, and that looked terrible. Should he have thrown that? Probably not, right? And I know, part of the reason why we win these games, and I love Sark, is because he wants to freaking take your head off, and I love that. But the running game was just starting to click. Like, give the ball some carries. Hell, put Arch in and give him some carries. So I thought those were two huge moments, and that gave them the opportunities. We mentioned the trickeration that they just kept coming up with. Why are we not looking for that? Time and time again, teams are going to keep running that, but this is not on Quinn. Quinn is not in charge of calling all the plays. It's the coaches on the sideline.
Yeah, no, just to go off your point of those long passes, Sark was doing that in the third quarter and even the fourth quarter. Like, he took a couple bombs to Isaiah Bond, and yes, that was targeting. Arizona State would have gotten the ball because it was an interception, but at least would have put them 15 yards back. Right. It doesn't negate the interception.
Exactly.
Correct. So that, in my opinion, we'll get into this a little later. That was more targeting than the Taffe play. But
I agree.
But hey, Arizona fans are triggered. Arizona State fans are triggered, and all the Texas anti-Texas people on X,
A&M, OU, they're all triggered.
They're all triggered. They were more mad about that play than actually like Texas losing. But it's okay. We'll get into that. But so he did that. He took 2 to 3 shots to Bond, and yes, they said Bond was healthier, but to me, he still didn't look right yesterday.
No, not 100% to me.
And he was, so when he's not 100%, his speed is his greatest asset. Well, his speed is negated because he can't run a 4.3 like he can 100% healthy. Right. And Arizona State knew that. Also, they threw some deep passes to Matthew Golden. And yes, we had some connects, but at times it was so unnecessary. Yes. I wasn't saying run the ball every possession because Arizona State was starting to figure it out. But what about those intermediate routes? Why did it take Gunnar Helm's first catch to be in the fourth quarter? That didn't make any sense at all. By the way, the fourth quarter, the offense Quinn was just throwing to two people, Gutterhelm
Golden.
or Golden. He threw it to the
or
running
check
back.
down.
Yeah, or the check down, but those were his two main guys. Bro,
Yeah.
where was the intermediate routes? You know, like we know that's Quinn's specialty. Quinn is money accurate with those plays. And you needed to mix the run in a little bit more, even if it wasn't successful, because you force Arizona State to put a lot of people in the box, which creates one-on-one opportunities on the outside. And it forces Arizona State to use their timeouts and to run the clock more. So, yes, play calling was an issue and contributed to Arizona State coming back in the game.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just being about in the moment with some of those things and not letting it get too big. Now, ultimately, Sark had the cojones and we won the game. Like, I don't think he plays scared. Like, I think he needs to make an adjustment and hopefully being that close. And I think you can also go, okay, look, Arizona State is a good team. Mm-hmm. That can be true. They are the Big 12 champs. That is true. But we blew a lead. That is also true. You can hats off to their team. And Sam Levitt played out of his mind because, I mean, they could talk all the shit they want as far as I'm concerned because they came to play, and I feel like we tried to be too cute at times. I mean, I think the worst thing that happened to us is going up 17-3 because we just were like, we got this. And I'm like, no, it was one offensive touchdown. It was one special teams mistake on their part. And one drive that stalled. Like, I'm glad we went for it, and I'm glad we didn't go for it again. I'm talking about the very first half. We're up 14-0. We go for it to get a first down, and then ultimately I think we have to kick a field goal. But I'm glad we didn't go for it again and not, be up only 14, whatever. But, I mean, it's just a little too cute sometimes. And we've seen what the Buckeyes have done the last two games against Tennessee, against Oregon. So you need to pick your spot when you're being aggressive, and hopefully he learns that over the next few weeks. We survived, we advanced. That's the only thing that matters. That's what you said the last time we talked is it doesn't matter if we win by 1,000,000 or win by half a point. We still advance and we play the next team. So we did that. We advanced, and now we just prepare for the Buckeyes.
Exactly. And so the offense, just to wrap it up before we'll get to the defense. So in the third quarter, we just have to admit now, third quarter is just going to be a problem for us all season because Arizona State outscored Texas with yards 125 to 8 yards in the third quarter. And yes, Arizona State only scored 5 points in the third quarter, the safety and then the field goal. But you could see that they were starting to get the running game going, and they dominated the time of possession. It was 38 minutes to 22 minutes for Texas. And Scatabo, who was stifled in the first half.
Yeah, he couldn't do anything.
He was starting to get more chunk runs and running over people. And that was more to the fact that our defense was tired. But the tightness of the offense, I didn't understand in the second half why we were going tempo as well when you got a first down. I'm like, your defense is tired. Like, we should not be going tempo.
Right.
They did get their stud DB back in the second half, Arizona State, because he was suspended for the first half of this game because of a targeting ejection in the Big 12 championship. He was the one that forced the fumble on Wisner by the goal line. So he came back. Unfortunately, Golden whiffed on the block, but then he came back and he hit Wisner, and that caused the safety. But to digress, we weren't running the ball enough, and the passing, we were too reliant, on the deep ball passes, and Arizona State started figuring that out, and they started committing more men to guarding the deep ball when the intermediate routes and the checkdowns were wide open in the third quarter. They would have been easy first downs, clock moving, drives, and instead, we allow Arizona State to get back in the game, which was very frustrating to watch.
Oh, it was a slow, painful death. I mean, it was like, what are we doing? And obviously, as a fan, there's only so much you can do. I mean, you can't really do anything. And those bowl games are always weird because it's not like you're in Austin and the media team is putting up graphics to get the Texas fans hyped up, or you're not at Texas watch party where it's just Texas. You're not even at a road game at Arizona State. Everything that is shown is very neutral. So it's a bowl game. That's how it's meant to be played. But I mean, man, it was very killer to watch. It was a slow, painful death. I still had a lot of faith throughout the game, but it waned and waned as we got closer, as the lead shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. Because I was texting you, it was 17-8 for the longest time. I'm like, if we could score a touchdown, this game is over because they cannot move the ball. They can't move the ball. And maybe I sound like a crazy person when I say this, but I still don't think they could really move the ball against us because it took a 42-yard Cam Scatabo pass that if he has that ball for another, I mean, I guess it's a long time in a football play, but like another second, he's tackled.
Yeah.
We almost get to him, right? 42-yard pass, but
it was underthrown.
What are we doing?
And it was very
dime. Like, what are we doing? It took a fake punt. What are we doing? I mean, that was the gutsiest of calls. I mean, I couldn't even dream of calling that because you're like on your own, 10, 9,
yeah, it was
15? Gutsy. I mean, crazy just to move the ball. But like you said, like, we couldn't run the ball effectively. I wanted to see Jaden Blue actually get some more touches, especially in the passing game. He didn't. And when we started to get that juice, which is why the only reason why I had some faith in overtime is because in the fourth quarter, we started to like put a drive together. And, Bert Auburn missed a couple field goals that, either could have put us away or won the game. We were getting down there. I'm like, okay, we're not stalling out. Because that third quarter, it felt like we had like 6 plays and they had 20. I mean, their yardage was insane. But a lot of that is their trickeration and us not being prepared for everything. We were just prepared for the run game, which we stifled in the first half. But in the end, and we'll get to the defense, in the end, we were able to stifle it enough and win the game, which was insane. I still can't get over it. I still don't think it was real. Like, it was, insane.
That was one of the craziest college football games I've been to,
Ever.
And even back to my time when I was a student at UT. That was wild for sure. And before we get to the defense, I just wanted to give Golden a shout out too. 149 yards, 7 catches. He made himself money. He's going to be like a second or third round pick now.
I think second.
Yeah, it's like we thought he was going to come back next year. No, he's not coming back. So get a good last look at him in the Texas uniform these next 2 games.
Next 2. Next 2. Yeah.
Matthew Golden is going to be in the league next year. He is a problem. He is just consistent. He is the AD Mitchell of this year because when he needs to make clutch plays, that's who Quinn Ewers goes to. He can make contested catches. He can get yards after catch. He runs great routes. He's a dependable guy when you need him in situations. So shout out to you, Matthew Golden. I also want to say I wanted to give a Quinn Ewers stat. So in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter and overtime, Quinn Ewers, the quarterback that all Texas fans want replaced, or not all Texas, a lot of Texas fans want replaced, was 11 of 14, 161 yards and 2 touchdowns. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
He was
exactly
awesome. And when the game was tied with 50 seconds left, he led Texas down the field for a Bert Auburn field goal. He was 5 of 5 for like 40-something yards. He was unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And he can't control that the kicker misses the field goal twice.
Twice.
So it was brutal. And we need to get that fixed, or we need something because I don't know how much we can rely on Bert Auburn the rest of this year. But now let's talk about the defense. So the defense was, we know Texas is awesome defensively. They played really well in the first half, like only giving up 3 points, even though the time of possession was still very slanted. Arizona State was 3 of 6 in the red zone, 3 turnovers on down. They did not play the best in the second half, but I attribute that to more, like Nick said, trickeration, but also they were really tired. The defense yesterday played 97 snaps. Yes, you heard that right, 97. I don't care how great of a defense you are, you're going to allow points when you're on the field for that much of the time.
Exactly. And it's just all goes back to the offense. Look, we're very happy. We're in the semifinals. We're one of 5 teams left because, Notre Dame and Georgia haven't played yet. They're going to play in just a little bit as we are recording. But we're one of the best teams in the country. We have a chance to win a national championship. We are stoked. But we are trying to give a accurate description of yesterday and an accurate prediction of this game and going on to the next season. But yes, this goes back to the offense. The offense needs to sustain drives, and they need to keep the defense rested on the field. This is the best defense in the country, but you're only as good as your offense is, because if your offense is constantly getting 3 and outs, even a quick drive, your defense is not resting. And when you have a player like Cam Scatterbo and Sam Levitt, Sam Levitt, first of all, is way faster than I gave him credit for. He can flat out fly. But here's the thing. They couldn't pass the ball down the field.
Yeah.
When we knew they were going to pass, it was not completed. Everything in the goal line that was successful or that they relied on was RPO. Either Sam Levitt took it, Sam Levitt gave it to Kim Scatterbo, or there was a number 4 back. I forgot his name, but he took it too. Mm-hmm. 1 of 3 plays. There was not a lot of tight end play as far as throwing the ball. Those plays were usually negated. I thought our team played very well. I think a lot of it was trickeration, and I think a lot of it was them being tired. Arizona State is awesome. I mean, it's that kind of team where, and we talked about this last week, where they can control the time of possession. They're going to wear you out. You have to put points on the board, right? You have to do that, or they're going to just wear you out and then score a touchdown. And they got themselves back in the game. And the problem with that is they will go down and score a touchdown, wear your defense out, and take like 8 minutes off the clock. And now you have less time, and you have to score or whatever. But I just really think that Scatterbo is unreal. He had almost 300 yards all purpose. It's insane. And I think that's more of a credit to them and their offense for getting after us and wearing us down than it's more of a downfall on us, because he might be the best running back in the country.
He might be. He made an argument because Genty really didn't do anything against Penn State.
Right.
And so, yeah, no. And before I get to Levitt and Scatterbo, yes, they played amazing. Just specifically talking about the Texas defense.
Yeah.
You knew in the second half they were tired because, Scatterbo started getting these longer runs, and it was just bad angles and missed tackles. But you can't blame those guys because they were on the field for so long. The time of possession was slanted. There was costly penalties that's not like this Texas team, like that Michael Taffe face mask penalty, even though the wide receiver pushed off. Yeah, but of course, the refs weren't the best yesterday.
Horrible.
But we'll get into the targeting just in a few minutes. Then Malik Muhammad had a penalty. Jahdae Barron had a penalty in the end zone. It was just undisciplined. But because they were throwing a lot of trick plays, and our defense wasn't able to get on the same page as much because Arizona State was just wearing them out constantly. So talking about the Arizona State players, Sam Levitt kept the Arizona State Wildcats in this game in the first half because of his legs. He was running for his life pretty much all game. Colin Simmons, who also had a great game, was in his face. Vernon Broden, Alfred Collins, he was running for his life and having to make throws on the run. Also, running the ball in the second half was awesome because he got those tough yards, making people miss. Scatterbo was just a warrior. He even had like 8 catches as well, in addition to running. And he was just doing whatever it takes for Arizona State to win. So much respect to those boys. And they're a great team. But the defense ended up making the necessary situational football plays at the end of the game. Makuba had the huge pick, and he was like, okay, enough of this. We're going to end this game right there. And, Jahdae Barron won defensive MVP because he had 11 tackles. But I thought Makuba was a little bit more impactful because he was making a lot of plays in the first half and the second half.
I think hats off to both of those guys. And I love, first when Jahdae Barron, gets awarded that, he's talking about his teammates. He's talking about, Makuba being such a great play. Just first on Jahdae Barron, I mean, you said it and made me pay attention a bit more this week. He's a guy, first of all, he's first-round talent. Everybody knows that. But he's a guy that gets down and dirty, and he was going after Cam Scatterbo. He was hitting him in the legs like every play, which you don't always see that with a lot of corners. A lot of corners, don't get down and dirty like that. But he does, and he did. And Makuba, I mean, people are going to rip on Taffe. We'll get into the Taffe thing. I promise soon. But I thought Taffe played a good game despite everything. It was a lot. He was being asked to do a lot, and he got knocked around a lot. But Makuba, I mean, awesome play. If Levitt actually throws that a little farther back, he might have had a chance there because or Makuba doesn't make that play because there was no one, I don't think, behind Makuba, right?
No, there wasn't. Yeah. He was a safety of that play. Yeah.
He was a safety of that play. And
yeah.
I mean, it was a great play. I mean, probably not the best ball for Levitt to throw, but he had to have it. I think it was 3rd and 10, and he jumped it. We won. I was like, thank God, because I could not do another overtime game, and I've watched Georgia Tech.
Oh, you didn't want 8 overtimes like Georgia Tech? No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely not. And I think it's one thing if you are the underdog, like if you are the Arizona State going against Texas. It's one thing if you have more games to play in your season. It's a whole other thing if you are the 5 seed, as we are. I only put that in air quotes because I don't think we're the 5th best team, but 5 seed, and you have aspirations to win a national championship and you're a blue blood and you blew a lead in the 4th quarter. It's a lot different than, hey, it's rivalry week. I know this is intense, but you still have other football. But this would have been devastating if we were able to fall to them. Thank goodness we don't. We don't have to get down and sad that we almost lost. It's not about that. It's how much we've rallied thanks to our great secondary play and Makuba and Jahdae Barron. So happy that we advanced.
Definitely. So now let's talk about the infamous targeting play. So let's give people some context first. Unfortunately, Quinn Ewers throws an interception. It was intended for Isaiah Bond, which in my opinion, that should have been targeting.
Yes.
But like I said earlier, Arizona State would have kept the ball because the interception happened, but they would have just been moved back 15 yards. So I think that it was like the 4th or 5th play of that series. So Sam Levitt hits a receiver in the middle. I'm not familiar with the receiver's name, but it was Michael Taffe that hits him. And it was a pretty vicious hit. And the receiver ends up lying on the ground, which, in my opinion, that's what prompted them to review the targeting. I think if that receiver just got up, I don't think they would have reviewed that play. But I want to get your opinion. Was that targeting? And because it was not called targeting, but a lot of people, including some rules experts, thought Taffe should have been flagged.
Yeah, a lot of people did. And a lot of people I was sitting with thought it was too. And I think, quite frankly, when I first saw it, I did too. And especially the way the game was officiated, it was definitely pro Arizona State for 90% of the game. So for people saying it's, Arizona State versus the refs weren't even watching the game because, I mean, it'd be like every play they were holding. I mean, whatever. But after looking at it, I don't think it was targeting. And my issue is he was laying down, like you said. And obviously we don't want him to be hurt or anything like that, but he was laying down for about 5 minutes, and then they decided to look at the play, right? If you call and obviously, as I think you mentioned, if not, I'll mention it now. On the play, as Taffe tackles him, they don't call targeting on the actual play, right? Like you said, he's laying down. It's literally like 5 minutes, and then they review it, and then, but because the way the game was going, Arizona State getting all these calls, I was like, well, it's definitely going to go their way. I didn't think it was going to go their way. My thinking is maybe it's a slight makeup call for the Bond one. The Bond one, to me, looked more vicious. He came in, not with his helmet, but his elbow, right? Yeah. His arm, and his head snapped back. So that one, to me, looked more like targeting. And his head snapped back. Now, Bond was able to get up quicker than the other player. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know if they didn't want the game to end that way for Arizona State and Levitt. I don't think it was targeting because he didn't lower. It puts Taffe in a really, really difficult position, I think. Like, how is he supposed to tackle that player? And I think a lot of people don't know the answer to that. I've seen a lot of rules analysts go, well, the Bond one is targeting, but this one's not. Like, the rule, I think, needs to be maybe changed or it's too up for interpretation, I guess. Like, is it helmet to helmet? Does he have to lean with the crown? Because it looked like he didn't lower. He was just going in, and they happened to collide, is what I was seeing. Trying to be as unbiased as possible. And then the Bond one, he didn't go helmet to helmet, but it was like elbow to head, and his head snapped back. And I guess my conclusion is, I think if you don't call the Bond one, you don't call that one. And maybe that's what they came to. They're like, if we can't call the Bond one, we'll X-nay that, and then we'll say this Taft one isn't that either. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's actually like a great.
I think that's fair.
That's a great way to put it, because you can't set one precedent for no targeting against Bond, then cause another targeting for something that was a less egregious hit. Again, targeting is not determined by how vicious the hit is, but
right.
Like, yes, Taft did hit him. It was helmet to helmet, but Taft was not lowering his head. He didn't launch at him. He was just making a normal tackle.
Right.
And those that watch Texas, Taft is not at all a dirty player.
No.
He's a former walk-on that plays hard, you know? and how do you think he has to play hard? Because it's very hard for walk-ons to go from walk-on to starting for 2 years. So that's just the way he's had to play. And you know, I didn't even think it was helmet to helmet as much, and he hits him more like on the face mask area. And he didn't lower his shoulder, he didn't launch, and he did a form tackle as well. You know, so I didn't think it was targeting. I like that the refs didn't call it as much. But if you want to get to some of the missed calls, unless if you have any other points about the targetings before, I wanted to talk about some of the missed calls the refs made.
One quick thing that I don't like about this is, of course, you're going to get fans that go, oh, you know, you know, SEC versus the refs. That's fine. That's all fun and games because that's fans. What I don't like is when you're like an analyst or you're someone who works for ESPN and you're doing that. Like, I saw one person who was like an analyst, like a well-known, you would know who this person is, who was like, they're just doing this to help Texas to extend the game and all that stuff. I'm like, come on. Like, it's one thing if it's Joe Schmo on Twitter, but the refs don't want to do that. And you know, I'm setting you up here. Like, they were, and I'm not saying they were working against Texas because I don't want to go that far, but I do want to be like, it definitely wasn't even as far as some of the calls were being made, especially in the first, or especially in the second half.
And it was the Big Ten crew, so it was Arizona State is in the Big 12, as we know. Texas is the SEC, so obviously they're not going to have officials from either of those conferences.
Right.
So it's either going to be the Big 12, which thank God it was a Big 12 rest.
We would have lost by 30.
Well, they're saying we may have Big 12 refs in Arlington, in the famous Kevin Marr's crew, maybe. But they're refereeing the Georgia game this afternoon, so we'll see. Let's just see how what happens. Again, not to digress, but so there was a couple calls that I had questions with, more on Texas than Arizona State. The blocked kick, or the almost blocked kick in the first half.
Yes.
How was that? How can you call roughing the kicker when, first of all, the ball was tipped? You know, so you can't call roughing the kicker if the ball was tipped on that, you know? So right. I had a problem with that call. I had a problem with a couple of the pass interference calls that they called on Malik Muhammad on the 2-point conversion. The Taft face mask was obvious. Fine, I'm not disputing that call, but there was OPI, offensive pass interference, as well.
He bumped.
Yes.
It should be offset.
How do you think he's able to get that open? Taft is great in coverage. So that was a problem. Also, our false starts. There's been a rumor, or not a rumor, but there was some hearsay that in the fourth quarter, Arizona State started calling out our play calls. So that's why it caused some of those false starts. Well, that's illegal. The defense is not supposed to do that, you know. So that should have been flagged on the defense, because Kelvin Banks. We've watched Kelvin Banks for 3 years. He doesn't false start
ever.
Like, when do you see Kelvin Banks false start? Well, no, he doesn't. Also, 0 holding calls on the Texas on the Arizona offensive line. There was multiple egregious calls, but they didn't call any holding calls either on Texas's offensive line. So at least they were consistent on that. But when is the last time you've seen a football game where there's been 0 holding calls on the offensive line? Like,
insane. No, it's insane. There was also another one. I think it was in overtime when. Oh no! When we were up 24-22 and they had to get the 2-point conversion, right? They don't get the 2-point conversion. They throw a flag and they say it's holding, but they don't name a player.
Oh yeah, I was like, what?
That would have changed the game. We would have been up 2.
Yes. And also some spots were questionable, like ball spots, like that Cam Scatterable did not get that 3rd and 1.
There were several. There were several where I was like, I don't know about that spot.
Yes, like they were giving the Arizona State favorable spots, but again, sometimes in the playoffs you have to fight those kind of things, and we stayed resilient, and I like that. We just kept playing, the opponent, and we did a great job, with that. And the next game is obviously not going to be Big Ten officials because we're playing a Big Ten team in Ohio State. So it's either going to be ACC officials or Big 12 officials. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But again, as we're getting ready to wrap up, I wanted just to show this. I saw this on the Scott Van Pelt show last night. This shows you how much ups and downs.
Oh my gosh!
This game was. It was like a March Madness game. So when Texas was up 24-8 in the 4th quarter with 7 minutes left, Texas basically was guaranteed to win, 99.9% chance. But then in the 4th and 13, when Arizona State was up 31-24, Arizona State had a 91% chance to win. And this was one of the greatest college football playoff games probably ever in history, at least since its inception. And it was just crazy back and forth, heavyweight fight. Both teams trading blows.
I mean, that's definitely right. I mean, when we bring up the calls, we're not doing anything to try to negate anything about Arizona State or giving our team an excuse for letting them come back. We just want it to be called fairly. I mean, like you said, there was no holding calls at all. I know we held and they held. So we just want it to be more fair throughout the game. But no, it was an awesome game. I'm just glad that we got through it. I think we would be very depressed and sad right now if we had lost this game. But glad we won. Ready for a little Quinn Ewers revenge game against Ohio State. Obviously, he was there before, so pumped about playing the Buckeyes.
Yeah. So, what are your early thoughts of that game before we wrap this episode up?
Well, I think we got to play clean football. I don't think we'll make it to double overtime necessarily if we play like that. I think we need to, like you said last time, I'm going to steal your notes here, and we need to play a good 3rd quarter. Do we need to score a lot of points? Not necessarily, but we need to take care of the ball. We need to have here's my thing. And this is I'm going to bring my point back all the way back to the Arkansas game. This is what pissed me off. Right when we needed to score, we could score. Right when we need to score in any game, we can score. Why can't we just do that not every drive? I know we can't score 100 points, but why can't we do that more consistently? Right? Like, obviously we have the talent. Obviously we have the guys. Obviously we have the play calling. What is it? Why do we keep stalling against teams? And that's not going to win you a championship. You have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. You're going to stall. You're going to throw interceptions. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about every game. There's some sort of big lull, and it relies on our defense to win a close game. Clemson was a lot closer than it needed to be, but we ended up winning by double digits. We could have won by 4 touchdowns probably. A&M, we could have won by a lot more. It cost us to get Georgia twice, right? You can't make these stupid mistakes. And Ohio State is probably the best team in the country right now, and they look scary. My prediction is whoever wins this game is going to win the national championship.
Ooh. I like it.
I think we win. I'm putting my faith up in my boy Quinn. It's going to be razor tight, but this is also one of the best teams that they have faced. And if we clean up our game and we play Texas football, we're going to win this game.
Yes, and this is the best team that Ohio State's going to face because we are better than Oregon. We would have probably beat Oregon by 2 touchdowns. That would have been my prediction if they won. But I'm most excited about seeing our defense, which has been amazing this year, against Ohio State's vaunted offense. They have 2 amazing running backs in Judd Gibbs and Travion Henderson. What about that boy Jeremiah Smith? Sheesh,
he's good.
He's good.
Oh man,
Barron lined up against Jeremiah Smith, 2 first-rounders. Get your popcorn ready. That is going to be must-see TV. And Booba is really good too, as well. And so that's going to be awesome. That's a matchup. That's the side of the ball I'm looking most forward to. Ohio State's defense is really good. Their defensive line is playing a lot better. They got that 44. His first name is JT. And then Jack Sawyer, who's also a really good player. Caleb Downs in the secondary, who came from Alabama. He's going to be a top 10 pick. He's only a sophomore, so next year after next year, he's going to be a top 10 pick. But it's just going to be good on good. 2 teams that have consistently had top 5 recruiting classes. 2 of the blue bloods in college football going to be suiting up in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, for the chance to go to the national championship. Cannot wait for sure.
Oh, it's going to be epic. It's going to be awesome. I give us the slight edge. I'm going to say we win 31-30, but I think it's going to be slight edge in coaching. I think Sark has got to be able to look in the mirror. And I do think he does look in the mirror and go, okay, like, what are we doing? Like, a lot of this stuff really worked, right? Matthew Golden is our best receiver right now. Ryan Wingo, he has some great plays.
Oh, he played well, much better than he did against
And if you remember that second drive, I believe it was, second or third drive, Quinn throws an absolute dart to Ryan Wingo, but he looks the other way for a second. If he looks the other way, that's a touchdown, or at least a massive gain, and it's at least a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing. But who outcoaches the other? Because Sark has had his moments where he's faltered. Ryan Day has had moments where he's faltered. Who comes and both? I mean, Day needs this more than Sark. No one's really on Sark's. No one's really on Sark, but both need it. Texas hasn't been to a national championship since 2010. Ohio State's been to one more recently, but they haven't beaten Michigan in a long time. That is still on their brains. But I think them losing to Michigan was the best thing to happen to them.
They're motivated.
They're motivated. They're angry. They're pissed off. They just blew out Tennessee. You can say they blew out Oregon. Oregon kind of came back late, but it's going to be a fist fight. It's going to be a hell of a game either way. And then, we got Notre Dame, Georgia, and then whoever plays that one tonight will end up playing Penn State. So it's going to be an awesome semifinal matchup. It's going to be an awesome championship. And, hey, I'm just happy we made it this far.
Definitely, we need to continue to enjoy this because I want to say we're the only team that's made the playoffs 2 years in a row. We're also the only team that has made the college football playoff semifinals 2 years in a row as well. It's a huge thing. We have the better quarterback, than Ohio State. Will Howard's balling out this.
He's on fire. Yeah, we have the best one.
And he even did say that, because he was at Kansas State before. He's like, I haven't beat Texas yet. He's like, that's on my list to beat Texas.
I'm sure.
We'll see. We'll see, Will.
We'll see, Will.
We'll see what happens. And one thing that's concerning, that if I was a Ohio State fan, I would be a little concerned, is that both of those games, you blew people out. Well, we know with Texas, we love to play fourth quarter games as Texas. We love to keep it close. How is Ohio State going to respond? Are we going to have a Day slip up, a Ryan Day slip up? Because Ohio State has not played a close game in a while, and you see what happens when a team like Michigan is able to keep the game close on them. They are not able to execute down the stretch. So that's going to be the key for Texas, and starting fast, because these last 2 playoff games, Ohio State has basically jumped on their opponents, and the game has been over by halftime pretty much. So can we punch Ohio State in the mouth and not allow them to start fast and make it a fourth quarter game? I like Texas's chances if that happens.
I did too. I think it's going to be a dogfight, just like it was against Georgia. We've lost most of those games. Sark knows we just got away with one with the Sun Devils, and you got to make magic with what you got, right? You got to do something with that. And I think knowing that we got away with one, not saying we didn't play well enough to win, we did, but you got a chance to play for the national championship back in Atlanta. You got a chance to play, or you will be playing in front of a Texas crowd in freaking Dallas, Texas, hours away from Austin, right? You win. You have a chance to avenge your loss against Georgia in the national championship in Atlanta, where you lost the SEC championship.
It doesn't get better than that.
It doesn't get better than that.
And
so it's all right in front of you. You've got the players, you've got the talent, you got everything. Are we due? I love what you said about the Ryan Day slip up. I think we're due because everyone in the world was like, Ohio State's gonna smash Michigan. And I know it's a rivalry game. It's probably the best rivalry in sports, other than us and OU or A&M. But it's honestly probably number one. But he's due, right? I mean, they're due for some sort of slip up. I don't want any blowouts. I want it to be close, and we win.
All the pressure is on Ohio State.
It's all the pressure's on Ohio State,
and we don't know how they're going to respond. They've had a couple of slip ups, like AKA the first game. The first time they played against Oregon, Will Howard slid, let the time run out. They had a slip up against Michigan. So if the game is close, Ohio State may be like, oh no, here we go again.
Here we go, right?
And it's going to be a pro Texas crowd. Ohio State fans travel a lot and they're passionate fans, but it should still be majority Texas fans.
Should be 70-30.
But hey, I'm looking for Quinn revenge game. You saw what happened against Alabama, Michigan, and Quinn was, just for those that are maybe not familiar with Quinn Ewers' journey, he reclassified from high school. In his senior year, he was at Ohio State. He was suited up. He played in one game for them. He had a couple of handoffs. So there's with the mullet, but hey, Quinn Ewers, the bigger the game, the bigger Quinn Ewers plays. I cannot wait. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for watching this episode of Touchdown Texas. I know we went a little bit longer, but last night was a doozy of the game. There was a lot of different storylines that we had to get to and talk about. Be sure to follow us at touchdown_Texas on our social media channels. And be sure to like and subscribe this video. Me and Nick are going to come back and do an episode before the Ohio State game just to do like a preview a little bit more in depth. And then we'll be with you after the Texas plays Ohio State next Saturday or Sunday. But until then, let's enjoy this Longhorns fan. Let's continue to ride this wave into the semifinals. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.